This Wednesday morning that the UK government has accepted the recommendation from the independent regulator to approve the Pfizer BioNTech COVID-19 vaccine for use.
We've come a long, long way together through the hard times and the good.
One London Health Trust has apparently already been asking its staff if they'd like to volunteer to be vaccinated from 7 a.m. on Monday.
And this is very, very significant globally because the MHRA is the first major regulator of a leading industrialised economy to give the all clear.
2021 is going to be better. Help is on its way with this vaccine, and we can now say that with certainty rather than with all the caveats that I normally have to put around that. We're going to have a summer next year that everybody can enjoy.
We are in the midst of a once-in-a-century pandemic, and I think this is a historic moment. The UK is now one step closer to providing a safe and effective vaccine to help in the fight against COVID-19.
The reason we're here today is the brilliance of science and also the altruism of all those people who have enlisted in clinical trials to give us the tremendously robust data we have today.
We are working to supply 800,000 doses this week, and we're scaling up from there. I really think this is now a turning point in the fight against this pandemic, both here in the UK and across the globe.
The vaccine will begin to be made available across the UK from next week. I would like to pay tribute to and to thank all those who have made this possible. It is the protection of vaccines that will ultimately allow us to reclaim our lives and get our economy moving again.
This pandemic has caused so much grief and so much loss, but we're now a big step closer to the end of the tunnel.
For the first time in months, people have woken up with a genuine sense of hope. The news on the vaccine approval is the news that we've all been waiting for.
This really is a ray of light in dark times.
Thrilled. It's a message of hope for us all. It's great news.
It's something really to look forward to, that we can steel ourselves, we can get through these hard times, we can get through the home working and running a creche at the same time as everything else. And we know that a bit of normality is on the way.
This has just come at the right time. If we can have a break and all the negative news and find something good to be thankful for the future, it's just exactly what we all need.
So the news then, the UK becomes the first country in the world to approve the Pfizer-BioNTech coronavirus vaccine, with vaccinations beginning to be offered as soon as next week. The jab, which the UK's medicines regulator says is safe, offers up to 95% protection against COVID-19.
Those who are at the highest risk, the over 80s, as well as people in care homes and the frontline staff looking after them, are expected to be the front of the line for getting the vaccine. It'll be administered in 2 injections, 21 days apart, with the second dose being a booster. And immunity begins to kick in after the first dose, but it reaches its full effect 7 days after the second dose. So basically looking at a month from first jab to full immunity.
There has been a Downing Street press conference in the last hour which provided more of the detail that everyone's been waiting to hear. It included this admission from England's Deputy Chief Medical Officer, Professor Jonathan Van Tam.
I don't mind telling you, I'm not saying it for effect, the office will tell you it's true, that I was quite emotional this morning when I heard June Rain, Sir Munir Pir Mohammed and Wei Shen Lim lay out how they got very meticulously to their conclusions about the Pfizer vaccine. And what a momentous, journey and international effort it has been. Discovery by 2 scientists who originally lived in Turkey, development by a German biotech company, involvement of a massive US pharmaceutical giant, and then involvement of our own UK MHRA to bring home the goods in terms of the UK. What a fantastic journey. And I gave you the train analogy many weeks ago now. The train has now slowed down safely. It has now stopped in the station and the doors have opened. That was the authorization by the MHRA. What we need now is for people to get on that train and travel safely to their destinations. Those destinations are all over the UK. This train is going to stop several times on the way. It's going to have to of the UK. There will be trains that come behind it, and that is all going to take time. So everyone needs to be delighted with the news today, but equally patient and realistic about how this rolls out over the next few months.
The Pfizer-BioNTech jab is the fastest vaccine ever to go from concept to reality. It's worth reminding ourselves how far we've come in just a few short months since April, when the Health Secretary Matt Hancock was announcing this.
This is a new disease. This is uncertain science, but I'm certain that we will throw everything we've got at developing a vaccine.
The Health Secretary Matt Hancock says the NHS should be ready to roll out a coronavirus vaccine by the start of December.
A vaccine being available, I don't know, within the next 6 months? Is that realistic?
Well, I mean, there might be a vaccine available in the lab ready to go, but I think the resources there to administer the vaccine might be the bottleneck for this.
Vaccines which are the most advanced clinically, they have nearly completed enrolling and vaccinating their target number of individuals in their phase 3 studies. One of them is the Oxford study and the other is the Pfizer-BioNTech study.
We have some breaking news for you this morning, because in the last few minutes we've heard that the first coronavirus vaccine has been approved for use in the UK.
Today is a triumph for all those who believe in science, a triumph for ingenuity, a triumph for humanity, and I want to thank everyone who's played their part in this achievement.
So, do you have questions? If you do, let us know. We've been trying to answer your questions all through the day on 5 Live. 85058. If you want to text us, you can tweet us at BBC 5 Live. Helping us to answer them is Dr. Bharat Pankhania, who's a senior clinical lecturer at the University of Exeter Medical School. Good evening.
Good evening to you. Good evening.
I suppose the first question to ask, having listened to what we just heard there, the development timeline condensed into about 60, 70 seconds, is how have they managed to do this so quickly, faster than they've ever come up with and produced a vaccine before?
Yes, it's very good news for humanity, and it's also good news for future vaccines to be developed using this mRNA platform. We did start using the mRNA for treating cancers and things in the 90s. It's just that we couldn't get the RNA into the cell safely and properly, and that's why much work wasn't done on it. But now that the manufacturing processes are much better, we are able to develop vaccines at pace and at volume and at quantities in a safe manner. So this is technological advances in getting the mRNA vaccines to make the cells, to make the protein against which we make the immunity.
We mentioned there that when you have the vaccine, it takes about a month to reach full immunity. But somebody's texted in to say, how long does the vaccine then keep you immune for? Is it something you need annually, or you need to be topped up? Or once you've had it once, will that do the job for as long as is needed?
No, we don't know, and only time will tell. And that's why it's very important that once we start immunizing people, we have good record keeping and follow up of patients and people. These are not patients, these are normally healthy people we're going to be immunizing. And we need to follow up a good representative sample to see for signs, symptoms, unknown, unexpected side effects, and also monitor if any one of them goes on to get infections after they have been immunized. And only then will we know how long and how well the immunity is lasting.
Philip's on the line in Worksop. Hello, Philip.
Hello there.
Hi, you've got a question for Dr. Pankhania.
Yes, thank you, Doctor. I just wonder how we can reassure people who are worried about taking the vaccine, and how we can provide a strong encouragement which stops short of actually making it compulsory, whether there might be incentives. But I think people are fearful or cautious, but I really don't think we need to end up in sort of pro and anti-vaccine. We just need to explain things and address people's fears, really.
It's a very good question, and I would say we allow the people who know about these things, immunization, vaccines, its safety, how it works, to take the lead and tell the politicians to take a back seat, because they have a lower, much lower approval and trust rating. And I give you my examples of the MMR vaccine that I used to go out as a shoe leather doctor. I used to go to the communities, I used to talk to my patients, and I used to explain to them sincerely and honestly about how it protects you, what its side effects are, what its side effects are not, and address their fears and take them with us. I think that is the best way forward.
Thank you, Philip. Philip in Worksop. Do get in touch if you have a question, 85058 or at BBC5 Live. Doctor, somebody texted me, how do they know that this vaccine is safe for people who have serious diseases like blood cancer, for example? Is that factored into the testing process?
Well, we do the experiment, which is we give you the vaccine and then look at the side effects and the immunity generated. And we look at a large number of people, and that's the experiment. The good thing about these mRNA vaccines is it only does what it's instructed to do and not much else. It may give you a sore arm, it may give you a temperature, and all those things are expected. But essentially what it is a small code, and it's only a small code, telling your cells to make the virus protein and nothing more, nothing less. And therefore you can work it out empirically that it's not going to do other unexpected, unusual, or things that we don't want it to do. And we can also make it do it in a measured way, meaning you only make a certain amount of virus proteins so that you don't have what we would call a hyperimmune stimulation of your body. All those things are easy to control when we make that, when we manufacture that vaccine.
Nick has a question, and I suppose this applies to vaccines in general, not just this one. He was saying that when you have a vaccine that's 95% effective, how do you know that you are immune, that you've fallen into the 95%, or whether you are perhaps one of the 5% for whom the immunity doesn't work?
Well, you don't know. I mean, you could technically look for antibodies after you have been immunized to see your immune response. But again, that is an inexact science. So the final proof will be, which is what I said earlier, is we monitor a large group of people, all age groups, and see how well they perform 6 months, 9 months, 12 months down the line to see and monitor, do they pick up a second infection or do they remain infection free? That is the best test possible.
An interesting question from Aid in the Midlands. He says it's great news on the vaccine, but he wonders when is it likely that people under 50, so the people at the bottom of the priority list, will get their vaccine. He says lots of people have various interests. I'm not into gyms or queuing at shops, but I do like a holiday and to do social things. He says it's feeling quite equal and not all in it together, presumably because he's at the bottom of that list, as are many people, the vast majority of people actually. So what do you say to somebody like Aid, who's maybe just feeling a little bit left out? How does it work overall?
Don't feel left out. Let me explain to our listeners. We will target the very vulnerable and the at-risk people and sensitive people. So the sensitive people are healthcare workers, etc. The vulnerable people are old, elderly, people with underlying conditions. And thereafter, what we need to do, and I hope we will do, is mass immunize a lot of people. And when you start mass immunizing a lot of people very, very quickly, what happens is there is a synergistic benefit to others who have not yet been immunized, because what happens is the level of infection goes down in the community, because now you're building up thousands and thousands and thousands of people who are immune. So the virus hasn't got the ability to find the non-immune people and infect them. So there are synergistic benefits to the people who have not been immunized as yet. And this is what I call the benefit of immunizing large number of people very, very quickly. It translates into benefits for the elderly who have maybe not been immunized or not made a good immune response, as well as those who are waiting their turn to be immunized.
What about the logistics of this? We've talked about, obviously, there are certain sensitivities with transporting and storing this particular vaccine. But obviously, when you're trying to do so many people in large numbers, we're hearing a little bit about how it will work. How do you envisage it being, particularly when we're in the stage where lots of people are getting done en masse?
Yes, so I think it is very difficult to use this vaccine to take it to very ill, very elderly people who are in nursing homes and in their own homes, etc. Whereas it is quite easy to immunize a lot of people because it has this special storage issues and low temperature maintenance, etc. What I am very hopeful about is that once the vaccines like the AstraZeneca Oxford one get licensed, they're a lot easier to administer and administer in large numbers to lots of vulnerable groups. So we will have to work out which vaccine will give us the greatest public health benefit in which group, and then think within the box and out of the box as well, and go for the greatest gain for the greatest number in the shortest possible time.
Doctor, that's been really useful. Very, very grateful for your time. Thank you so much. That's Dr. Bharat Pankhania, who's a senior clinical lecturer at the University of Exeter Medical.
Second on some.
Doctor, thank you so much.